On February 28, 2026, the balance of power in the Middle East shifted in a matter of hours. Explosions thundered across Tehran. Missiles struck hardened military facilities. Air defense systems lit up the sky. And by dawn, the world received confirmation that few thought possible. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was dead. Israel called it Operation Roaring Lion. The United States called it Operation Epic Fury. But beyond the codenames, this was something far more dangerous. A coordinated decapitation strike against one of the most powerful regimes in the Middle East. Today, we break down what happened, why it happened, and what comes next. Because this conflict may be only beginning. For decades, tensions between Iran, Israel, and the United States simmered beneath the surface. Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Tehran positioned itself as the central opponent of both Washington and Jerusalem. Sanctions, proxy wars, cyber operations, and covert strikes became the norm. But by 2025, the pressure intensified. After years of economic sanctions and diplomatic breakdowns following the collapse of the nuclear agreement, Iran's economy was in crisis. Inflation surged, the currency collapsed, public frustration boiled over. Mass protests erupted across more than 100 cities. Demonstrators openly called for regime change. Security forces responded with force. Meanwhile, intelligence agencies in both Israel and the United States grew increasingly concerned about Iran's nuclear program. Reports indicated stockpiles of highly enriched uranium had expanded beyond previously acknowledged levels. In Washington, President Donald Trump publicly warned that Iran would never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. Behind closed doors, military planners were already drawing up contingencies. The question was no longer whether confrontation was possible, but what would happen next. In early February 2026, U.S. force posture in the region shifted dramatically. Carrier strike groups moved into position in the Arabian Sea. Stealth bombers redeployed to forward bases. Destroyers equipped with Tomahawk cruise missiles took up firing positions. Officially, the Pentagon described the movement as deterrence, but satellite imagery told another story. Israeli Air Force squadrons intensified long-range strike drills. Aerial refueling exercises increased. Electronic warfare units mobilized. The region braced. Then came a critical development. The International Atomic Energy Agency reported discrepancies in Iran's nuclear declarations, raising concerns about undeclared material stored in fortified underground facilities. Diplomatic channels attempted last-minute negotiations through Oman and Switzerland. But momentum had already shifted. Within 24 hours, the decision was made. The operation began before dawn local time. Israeli F-35 stealth fighters penetrated Iranian airspace using low observable flight paths and electronic jamming. Simultaneously, US B-2 bombers launched precision-guided munitions from standoff range. Cruise missiles followed. Over 500 targets were reportedly struck within the first 24 hours. Primary objectives included air defense radar arrays, ballistic missile launch sites, Revolutionary Guard command centers, nuclear research facilities, intelligence headquarters. The strikes were coordinated with cyber operations that disrupted Iranian communications and air defense coordination. But the central objective was clear: leadership decapitation. Missiles targeted compounds in Tehran associated with senior leadership. Within hours, Israeli intelligence assessed high-probability success. By the following morning, Iranian state media eliminated several senior commanders within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, disrupting operational command structures at a critical moment. However, while leadership was shaken, the regime did not collapse. It retaliated. Within hours of the confirmation, Iran launched waves of ballistic missiles and long-range drones. Targets included U.S. installations in Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. Israel's missile defense systems intercepted many incoming threats, but not all. Several impacts were reported near military facilities. Civilian areas in Israel were also struck, heightening tensions domestically. Iran's Revolutionary Guard declared that regional American assets are legitimate targets. The escalation quickly widened. Then came the most consequential move of all. Iran announced restrictions on maritime transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Nearly 20% of global oil supply flows through that narrow passage. Energy markets reacted instantly. Oil prices spiked. Shipping insurers raised risk premiums. naval patrols intensified. While a full closure was not immediately enforced, the threat alone sent shockwaves through global markets. The conflict had now moved beyond a bilateral strike. It was affecting the global economy. Why risk such a dangerous escalation? From Israel's perspective, the logic was straightforward. Eliminate what it viewed as an existential nuclear threat before it crossed a point of no return. From Washington's perspective, the strike aimed to reassert deterrence, weaken Iran's command structure, and reshape regional power dynamics. But such operations carry immense risks. History offers cautionary examples. The 2003 invasion of Iraq reshaped the Middle East in ways few predicted. Power vacuums can produce instability rather than order. Inside Iran, the situation remains fluid. While state media projects unity, social media footage suggests mixed reactions. Some segments of the population mourned, others quietly celebrated. Whether internal unrest grows or is suppressed will heavily influence the trajectory of this conflict. Meanwhile, regional actors are calculating their next moves. Hezbollah in Lebanon has remained cautious but alert. Gulf states have strengthened air defenses while avoiding direct confrontation. European governments have called for de-escalation. The United States has reinforced its regional bases but stopped short of a ground invasion. For now, 3 potential scenarios are emerging. First, limited escalation followed by negotiated de-escalation. Back-channel diplomacy could freeze the conflict before it expands further. Second, sustained regional conflict. Proxy forces in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen could intensify operations, creating a multi-front war. Third, internal destabilization within Iran. If leadership fractures widen, power struggles could reshape the Islamic Republic from within. Each path carries profound consequences for global energy markets, military alliances, and the balance of power in the Middle East. For now, airspace across parts of the region remains restricted. Naval patrols continue. Missile defenses are on high alert. This is not a symbolic exchange. This is a live military confrontation between major powers. Operation Roaring Lion and Operation Epic Fury will likely be studied for decades in military academies. A coordinated decapitation strike, integrated air, cyber, and missile operations. Strategic targeting designed to reshape regional power structures. But wars are rarely defined by their opening strike. They are defined by what follows. Whether this conflict becomes a contained episode or the start of a broader regional war depends on decisions being made right now, in Washington, in Jerusalem, in Tehran. The first 72 hours have already altered the strategic landscape. The next 30 days may determine whether the Middle East stabilizes or ignites.